Hey, Grand Ascension, everyone. It's me, Nisi Denise, back to do another video. Today, I think it's Saturday, September, so they say, Saturnalia Day. September the 26th, I think, is what today's date is. So we're coming up on the end of, or it might be the 27th. We're coming up on the end of September, and October is right around the corner. It's next week. So I just want to get into the final chapter over Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids. Shout out to Guy Anderson. If you ever see any of my videos, excellent, excellent read. There are a few things that, of course, my understanding is a little different. And so my perception is a little bit different in some of the things that he talks about, especially when he talks about the Moorish community. Okay. Chief Red Wolf did an excellent live yesterday and the day before, and he kind of broke down the meanings behind the Moors. Okay. And shout out to Heirs of Germany over on TikTok. I shouted him out and reshared his page over here on Facebook. I think also I shouted him out on YouTube as well. So this is going to be uploaded in a couple different platforms. But like I've always said, it is up to you to do your own research, and it's up for you to come to that understanding and knowing. Okay. It's not about a belief, because the belief is a lack of knowledge and knowing. So my thing is, I find things interesting, certain things interesting, and I want to reshare the information because most people won't even go take the time to go look at it, right? Let alone pick it apart, digest it, process it, and have more questions, right? Because as you read, you always have more questions. I'm just saying, it's a part of knowledge. But the great thing that I wanted to say before I get started on this last chapter is that over the past, two to 3 years, the Creator of all has brought people into my life for a specific purpose and for a specific reason. And I have grown in my understanding, and I have grown in the knowledge. Okay. I've grown exponentially, and I'm going to continue to grow. I'm going to continue to learn and going to continue to read. My thing is that, when you look for certain things, it's like, when you're ready for certain things, the Creator of all will bring people in your life for a purpose. That's all I'm going to say. So without any more chit chat, let's get into the final chapter of Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids. Also, I did order his second installation, The Rise of the Clones, and that should be here tomorrow. So we're going to deep dive into that, as well as the beginner guide to Akashic Records and the lost teachings of Atlantis, and also the Children of the Law of One, the raw material. We're going to deep dive into that too as well. And that will tie out nicely and a nice neat bow on the science of sacred secretion and reaching nirvana or ascension, right? And at some point, I am going to have my son to come over here as a guest because he's busy doing things. I know right now it's Renfest for him, so it may be towards November before I can get him on a podcast. And we kind of go over some things with breath work and yoga and breathing and so forth. And I think that will help each one of you all, as well as it'll help myself, right? Knowledge is power if you use it and you put it into practice, right? Shout out to 7 Grams. I reshared your video this morning, brother. You're doing magnificent things. And as always, I appreciate the support and the love. All right. Chapter 16 is the reset. And it starts off as, okay, so if you remember, just a quick recap, chapter 15, we talked about Tesla, all right? We talked about Tesla, and we talked about his life, and we also talked about some of the other inventors that came after Tesla, but were mysteriously unalived, right? So each time someone comes out with a free energy device, strangely enough, something happens to the scientist and something happens to the work. Just going to say. And it begs the question, who would be the person or the persons that would want to keep this information under wraps? Again, it has always been about the land here in the United States, the resources, and I hate to use the word United States, but for those of you who see the video, you'll understand what I'm saying. For here in the Americas, it's always been about removing the original people, quote unquote, the Negro land, because this is what it was called on ancient maps. If you go back and you do the research, you'll see that it said Negro land on the maps, literally. And you'll see that they had to bum rush us with 7 different countries, 7 different countries to come over here and lay claim to the land and to push out my ancestors, the original people. And we have original melanated people all around the world. There's no shade or no slide to my light skinned brothers and sisters, because I love y'all, right? And I have plenty of y'all in my family, and it's in my bloodline. So I'm not saying that. I'm just simply telling you that when you start to go down the rabbit hole and you do your research, there are a lot of things that call into question about the history that we've been taught, right? So it's always been about the control. It's always been about power. And like Chief Red Wolf has said, shout out to you, big brother, it's always absolute power corrupts. So who would benefit from unaliving these scientists and hiding the free energy technology that once our ancestors used in the Fall of Tartary over 300 years ago? Less than 300 years ago. So, and I mean, my big brother, Jamil Shamshi Dean, excellent read. I've covered his material at length. Don't Call My Dummy No Dummy. And I told you, Don't Call My Dummy No Dummy. Excellent books by Jamil Shamshi Dean. I've reshared his books. I've done videos over it. You guys are doing yourself a disservice if you don't pick up his work, because he will, in no uncertain terms, break down what has transpired on the soil, and he'll lay it out for you in a nice, neat bow. And the only thing you need to do at that point is to do your genealogy, which is a paperwork research, not the DNA research, the paperwork research, to show where your family's from here in the US, right? In the Americas, and what tribe you come from. Okay. Because that's what we need to get back to. We need to get back to our roots, the basic natural connection to the earth and to the creator of all, right? This is my purpose of sharing certain information with you guys. All right. So chapter 15, we covered Tesla. He was celibate the whole entire time. He never had sex. All right. Out of his 86 years, he was celibate. He slept for 3 hours a night, and he was a photonous or biracial, melanin. Okay. Melanated. He was a mixed race, if you want to say that. All right. Because I don't identify with the crayon colors. He was biracial. And he went through a series of unfortunate events that happened in his life. But at the end, he was in New York City. He mysteriously ended up dying in the New Yorker hotel. Trump's uncle came in, went through some of the plans. We think he hijacked some of that stuff, and mysteriously his inventions came up missing. And over a period of time, they re-released his inventions, right? That's my point. And really and truly, Tesla I don't want to say he invented these things. I'm going to say he discovered what was already once was, because there's nothing new under the sun, right? So my point is that with Tesla and him doing the free energy devices, of course, he actually had a lot of haters. And I can't tell who's joining me, so I'm just wave and say, hey, I can't see. So he had a lot of haters. Even though he didn't have sex with a female, he didn't sleep with a woman, he still had drama in his life, and it was all because of what he was trying to accomplish, right? So Tesla wasn't the only one that we read. I think I read like maybe 7 or 8 different folks that did these different inventions, these free energy inventions. So now as we get into chapter 16, the reset, like I said, I have another book that's coming tomorrow as part 2 of this. Is called The Rise of the Clones. And we're going to deep dive into that too. So let's just start off. So it says in chapter 16, this is the final one. At the time of writing this, former president of the United States of America, Donald Trump, and quite possibly the next, has just been shot in what clearly looks like a failed assassination attempt. There appears to be a lot of controversy surrounding the event, with criticism of the Secret Service failing to communicate with SWAT teams, as well as not sweeping the area properly. In addition to this, the shooter was spotted several times prior to the shooting, and that raised the question in my mind that may never be answered, but perhaps I am now so far down the rabbit hole that I no longer believe anything I see or hear on the news. And I'm right there with Guy. I watch news. Hey Val. Yes, another book. Hey Paul, I think I lost him. I think you're still there, Val. Yeah, I have a shit ton. Nowhere near Chief Red Wolf though. He's got a library. So with that being said, I don't believe anything that's on the TV. I just question everything. You ought to hear me when I turn the TV on. And my husband's like, turn it off, damn it, turn it off. Just don't even turn it on anymore. I don't know why you'd be bothered to look at it. Because everything's a lie. It's about containing you. Entertainment, contain your mind, make you look outside yourself when you should be focusing within. So I understand what that is and what they're doing. And it's like, it's annoying to me. That's my point. So he says he no longer believes anything that's on the news. However, I am currently wondering if this was an orchestrated by the deep state and a genuine assassination attempt. B, carried out by a 20-year-old Thomas Crooks, who we are told had been researching how far away Lee Harvey Oswald was from JFK when he was assassinated. C, planned by Trump's people to increase support for him and place the entire American government and administration under scrutiny. Or, okay, so he gives us the three options, okay, A, B, or C. So he says, we may never get the real answer to this question, and there is still a lot of controversy surrounding Oswald and JFK some 60 years on. But it does echo that this event in many ways is similar. Now, my thing is, if you know, you know. RFK knew about JFK and he got a hold of the documents, obviously, so he knew who unalived him. But if you've seen the actual videos, now they may have scrubbed them from the internet, so it depends on where you go and what you find. But I have seen, in no uncertain terms, the driver turn around and shoot him. Okay. And then you saw his wife kind of flung herself over the back seat when he slumped over after he was shot. And she tried to get to the Secret Service behind that was following in the car. I mean, on foot. So she was trying to get out of the car because the driver turned around and shot him. I'm just going to tell you that. So, I mean, you got to look it up for yourself. But my point is that don't always believe what you see on TV. I'm just going to tell you. It's fascinating to me, though. So it says, with regards to Donald Trump, I can never decide whether or not he is part of the agenda and just playing a role or is generally against the parasitic elite and establishment. Well, I'm just going to say this. This is not Guy's words, Guy Anderson. This is me. I'm going to tell you that it's all a boys club. It's all a club and we're not invited, like George Carlin said. And they have to put on a play. So you're dealing with a cast of characters. And when you see these wars go on, it's truly the wars of these bankers. I'm just telling you. When you go down the rabbit hole and you look at the 13 bloodline families, and then you look at the sororities and the fraternities that are backed or hiding these families, it gets massively deep. I'm just going to tell you. So everything that you see is really not what's going on. You're just seeing a fraction. Hey, Tariq, how are you? Hey, how are you? So everything that you see is just a fraction of what's really going on. So when you're seeing things play out on TV, you got to think to yourself immediately, okay, what is it that they don't want us to see? And what are they trying to hide? What are they trying to keep us distracted while they're passing laws and doing things in secret? They're pushing this agenda and they're pushing all this violence and wars and killings and mass shooters and murders. But then they're passing bills quietly and no one's the wiser. I'm just telling you. So it's all a game. It's all a game. So the more you start to go down the rabbit hole and the more you become spiritually connected with source, the more you fast, the more you meditate, the more you ground, you don't have time for the bullshit, y'all. You really don't. You look at it, you see it for what it is, and you turn the TV off. I mean, literally, when you get to a certain point in spiritual awareness, it annoys you. You don't want to hear all the noise, right? You want to go within the stillness and go within yourself. And there you will have all the answers that you need, because we're going to talk about the Akasha records and we're going to talk about tapping into source. We are actually going to get into that. Okay. So then he says in the book, he says, while he's not sure if it's against the parasitic elites or the establishment, I often lean more towards him actually being a part of the cabal. One reason being his uncle having taken Nikola Tesla's files after his death, as mentioned in the previous chapter. If this was a genuine assassination attempt, it could have resulted in World War II. Just look back at how World War I started. The same suspicion could be applied to several other public figures, such as Vladimir Putin, Elon Musk, and even Joe Rogan. He's got Joe Rogan in here. So you can tell that this book was just recently done. I mean, he just recently finished his book. All right. So then he says, I have been told by several well-known podcasters on several occasions that we have always had false gods. And stooges. Moreover, people with a YouTube following as large as Rogan's would only be allowed to continue to be given airtime. Can I say that one more time? People with a large following as large as Rogan's would only be allowed to continue to be given airtime if they stick to discussing the topics that the parasites permit or want exposed, either under universal law and karma, because we talked about that, or as a method of redirection. Okay. With regards to Musk, he is seen as an ambassador for free speech and even spoke out about the legacy media spouting misinformation amidst the COVID pandemic, okay, during the BBC interview. However, he actually enjoys a huge amount of his funding from the very governments he condemns. I'm just saying, he's right. He's not wrong. He really isn't wrong. So then he says, universal law and karma is strictly followed by the parasites, okay, which prevents, in theory, from them being allowed to lie, okay? However, that wouldn't necessarily tell us what they are up to, preferring to avoid certain questions, all right, which we've seen a great deal of over the years, with politicians never giving a yes or a no answer or redirecting the conversation. Or what is that? What do they call it? Gaslighting. Gaslighting you. Yeah, I mean, you don't ever get a straight answer with a politician. I'm just going to be honest. You don't. And it says, I believe, along with many other people, that the parasites have used Hollywood, and we've talked about this before, and so has Chief Red Wolf, talked about the use of the Hollywood, California, with the holly tree, putting everyone in a spell. Everybody's in a spell. Nobody knows it. They're walking around here just glaze-eyed, just glossy-eyed, thinking they're living their best life, when truly you're living a fraction of what you could be. You're just existing. I'm just saying, everybody's under a spell, especially here in the Americas. I'm just telling you. So then he says, the parasites have used Hollywood to put their plans and some of their hidden knowledge, okay, including the technology that they have at their disposal and snippets of true history of the world into popular movies. They put it in movies, y'all. This allows them to follow their own rules, yet at the same time know full well that we will dismiss it as the work of fiction. I'm telling you, one of my all-time favorite movies, and Val, you know this, is Star Wars. 1977, 1978 it came out. I think I was 7 years old, and my cousin Beard, he took me and my cousin Butchie and Corey and my brother and a couple other people to the movies. And I sat there with my mouth out like this. I was in just amazement because then it resonated with me because I knew, I was like, this is real. This has actually happened. I've actually lived this. I recalled that as a kid and I was just chatty Cathy. And my cousin was like, you really think that was real? I'm like, yeah, I know it was. And my brother, he kind of hit me on my head. He's like, it wasn't real. It's just a movie. I'm like, no, it really has happened. And I'm telling you, they put the work out there. People think that it's fiction. They have some of the technology they have will just blow your mind, you guys. Shape-shifting technology, being able to see through the house without even being anywhere near you. The technology that they have with walking through walls, just the unbelievable aircraft that they have right now, that we're getting a small smidge of what's going on, right? Would you say, yeah, I saw that in, hang on. It's scrolling. Yeah, I saw that in theaters too. Yeah, I'm telling you. I know when they put it on TV, they pretty much mastered it. What is that show that came out on Paramount Plus? Halo with, I forgot his name. Pablo Schreiber, Liv Schreiber's brother, Halo. The technology that they had in Halo. I'm telling you, they already have that. We already have super soldiers. We already have robots underground. All this stuff has already been invented. They're just releasing it on the surface right now to us. We're late in the game, y'all. I keep telling y'all, we're surface dwellers. There are underground cities. There are underground dumbs, but there are underground civilizations that have been here for a millennia. All right. I'm just telling you. So the things that we see on TV, the majority of people will dismiss it, but I'm actually telling you it's real. And I know how that sounds. It is real. When you go down the rabbit hole and you start looking at stuff and you start uncovering things and staying up half the night reading CIA declassified documents, I'm telling you, your mind just go, ooh, what are they doing? The main thing I say is, what the hell are we doing here? Like, why is this place so crazy? I'm just telling you, we had that stuff since the late 90s. Oh yeah, we've had it even since before then. I'm gonna tell you since the 40s and 50s. To be honest with you, I'm gonna keep it 100. So here's what he says. He talks about the structure. Now I reshare. Y'all know I reshare a lot. Chuck Swindoll has an excellent video, but I'm telling you, it's like 6 to 7 hours long. All right, I'm just gonna tell you. You need a notebook. You need to take notes. You need to drink some coffee, and you need to really watch it if you really want to get into this stuff. But he discusses the hierarchy, and so does Guy. So Guy says it here. He says, here is how the pyramid of power works. All right. He says, there's the world monarch, the crown council of 13, the committee of the 300, and the Rome Club, or the Club of Rome, the think tanks, then the central banks, tax revenue, and the interest revenue. Then you got your corporations, your religion and your governments, and then your population and your workers and your feeders and your breeders. That's us. We're the feeders and breeders. We're at the lowest level. All right. Now, when you talk about the world monarch, you know who that is, right? Y'all know who that is. I ain't going to say it, but y'all know who it is. I'm telling you, it's fascinating to me. And then if you start to go research the Vatican and you start to research the city and how it was constructed and what they did with harvesting millions of people's bones. And I mean, using it as an energy source. I don't even want to get deep onto that. I'm going to keep reading, but I'm just going to tell you, I could do a whole 1 hour podcast on that shit and New York and what they've done to New York. Because that is New Amsterdam. That was called Amsterdam one time, and that's Vatican City right there. That's our Vatican City, New York is. But I digress. It's just fascinating to me that most people won't take the time to go read this stuff. So let's finish this. So it says the world monarch sits at the very top of the pyramid, all right, and is the most powerful being in the world, okay? Who or even what they are is shrouded in mystery. And as I write this, I am still unsure. Well, I can give you 3 guesses. I know what entity it is. And that a part of those entities will be making a grand appearance in, I don't know, in a couple of weeks. Maybe. I'm just saying. If you know, you know. By 2030, we're going to be on a digital currency. Y'all know that, right? We're not going to have the paper money anymore. And then when they digitize everything, then of course, a lot of people are going to buy into it immediately. But then they're going to push this narrative of more AI usage. And nobody reads the terms and conditions to stuff, right? When you update your apps on your phone, I don't read that shit. Now, I have read a few, and I'm like, uninstalled the apps because I didn't like it. But for the most part, unless you're an attorney or a legal guru, you're really not going to read the terms and uses of stuff. They're going to have people buy into this stuff, not understanding what they're doing in the beginning. And it's going to be an experiment. They're going to see how many people they're going to be able to push into it. But by the time 2027 and 2030 comes, this is going to be a whole new dynamic, right? And these phones are going to be different. And they already have the tracking capability, listening to you, watching you, and you're monitoring in your home. But it's going to be so much more technologically advanced. They're going to release a lot of things because AI is studying and it's learning and it's stupid as shit right now. And it's rewriting the history as it goes. That's why I'm so focused on purchasing books right now, because there's going to come a time where the information online is not going to be available. I'm just going to tell you, not unless you're digitally plugged in. Okay. I see that. I've read it. It's Agenda 2030 and it's on some other documents. You guys can go take the time to go look at it, but it's coming down the pipeline. So with that being said, the world monarchy, or the being that's over the world right now. It's a battle between families. All right. There is a being that sits over this dome within the ice walls. Okay. And there is a battle going on right now that we're going to be watching unfold more and more. So you just need to get ready for that. All right. That's a whole nother video. But what it says is, who or even who they are is shrouded in mystery as I write this. I am still unsure. Some have said that it is the Antichrist and that there have been two for sure: Napoleon Bonaparte and Adolf Hitler, but this I doubt. No, it wasn't. I'm just going to tell you that. No. Um, if you want to blame, or you want to put an entity over it, the entity that's over this dome is not human. Okay, just going to tell you, it's not human. And then when you talk about the Antichrist, really what you're talking about is you're talking about the lower aspect of your mind. I'm just going to say. I mean, if it goes against your natural born, sentient, divine essence or right, then you are going against Antichrist. All right. Because you're not living in your truth, or you're not walking in your true divine essence. So that's the thing. They have to contain you and distract you and to keep you looking outwardly instead of you going in and meditating and focusing and fasting and rebuilding the temple from the inside out. As long as they can keep poisoning us and keep feeding us Soylent Green, okay? Because we've all consumed human meat. I'm just going to tell you, we have. As long as they can keep us at a certain vibration, then they're going to push through with this plan, right? And I am going to do a podcast maybe this weekend over what happens to a human when they consume human DNA. I'm going to do something over cannibalism because I want to bring some things to you all's attention, because I want you to start watching people in public, and I really want you to start paying attention to some of your family members. I want you to start paying attention to people around you, period, so you can spot these things. Okay, there's no hate there. I'm just simply telling you. Would you say, why can't the other leaders from the known lands outside the dome intervene and help us? Because, and then you said, or have they already been conquered? Yes, there's wars that have been going on for thousands of years. Like I said, Star Wars was just a documentary. The thing is, you got to understand one thing. There is help here, and there are beings that are here watching us and working behind the shadows. But until we wake up consciously, and until we get to a certain level of understanding and we break free from this, we have to do it ourselves, right? They can help. Once we kick the can down the road and we light a fire and then it's on, then yeah, I'm sure that they will come to our aid and they will reappear. But it's going to take a majority, or a large percentage. I would say at least 40% of us to wake up and go, this is some bullshit. And then it would be an all out battle. But see, there's where you have these things that will come up from underground and start leveling cities off. And then you've got these other beings that will come in and help us. I know how that sounds, but I'm just telling you, the point is we got to do it ourselves. The way you change the world is the way you change yourself. You change who you are as a divine essence, and you step into your truth and your existence. Because really and truly, the closer you become to the creator of all, you really don't care about these material things. Your focus shifts, your perception and your reality shifts, right? And then you can become a light to others. Would you say the vast majority is still sleeping? Yeah, they are. They are. Valerie, how many people would you say, as a percentage wise, because you're an accountant, what would you say is a percentage of people that are actually starting to see that there is really something wrong here? And I don't want to use the word woke, because woke does not mean what people or the mainstream media claims it to be. Okay. Woke is truly when you are stepping into your truth of existence and you are Christed. You become Christed. You've reached nirvana and you're on a different path. You start to talk differently. You start to think differently, and you see things differently. I'm telling you, food, water, everything. It's different. I'm just telling you. And when you start this path, it starts slowly, but then it starts to speed up exponentially. Like you start to uncover a lot more things. When you are ready to learn, the master will appear, I guess I could say. Teachers will appear. And it's not even about teaching, because everything you need to know, you already have it inside of you. You just got to tap into that. That's why I'm going to be doing, more talking and more reading about the Akashic records. Everything we already need, we already have. We just got to access it. And that's the purpose of them keeping us poisoned, sick, spraying the air with chemicals now. You know, this mysterious fog is back all of a sudden, the weather modification, the food in the stores, the crap they spray on the vegetables. Truly, if you're not growing your own food or going to a farmer's market, you're ingesting toxins everywhere. This is a toxic place. More and more woke is a whole other meaning, but when you see it, the light just comes on. Exactly. Exactly. And then you know what? You will connect with people who are like-minded, and you won't have, let me see, you won't be able to tolerate certain things. Like you'll see through the bullshit really quick. I don't know how to explain it other than that. You know, you'll know. You'll know when you start to raise your vibration and you start to tap in more into source, and you become more centered with the earth, right? Then you will start to change. There's no way around it. You cannot help but change. It will change you, if that makes sense. So my thing is that for me, knowing this information is fascinating, but it doesn't divert my true intentions, which is always to raise above this consciousness, to raise my frequency and to raise my consciousness and to ascend. I want out of here. I don't want to come back, if that makes sense. I don't know how that sounds to some people when they see this. So he says in this one part on this last page, and I'm going to read this and I'm going to get off here. It says, Dolores Cannon was a very well-respected American author, as you know, Valerie, and a hypnotherapist and a publisher. She was the leader of the New Age movement and a promoter of theories relating to aliens and alternative realities. Cannon developed the quantum healing hypnosis technique and gained notoriety for claiming to be within contact with Nostradamus through her hypnosis sessions. Nostradamus wrote that the third Antichrist would appear again very soon, which is none other than artificial intelligence. I'm just going to tell you. I'm just going to tell you. I mean, y'all probably already figured that out. I'm just going to tell you that the Antichrist would appear very soon and would be born in Israel on the 4th of February, 1962. Okay. Now they're giving it he's saying here, based on what Dolores Cannon said, that this being is already born. And there is two people that I have in mind that comes to that. And, you know, one of them, he owns a corporation. He's well known. I just won't say his name. I'm not going to say it on here, but I'll allude to that in another video because I'm going to go into that too. So he says that he was supposedly born on February the 4th, 1962, but wouldn't be Jewish. Moreover, the time he would not appear evil. Quite the opposite, in fact. In order to mislead us, he would live in the Middle East and would be raised by his uncle, a very unpleasant person, following having murdered his parents. He would be seen in Oman and Syria during the Gulf War, as well as the banks of the River Nile, and would be educated in Egypt, studying economics. He will appear as a savior and have a golden tongue, but he is not to be trusted. Oh, I can think of two people off the top of my head. I can find only one person that comes anywhere close to this and suggest that you take a look for yourselves, starting with the date of birth and using keywords like politics and government. I cannot write his name for fear of either being wrong and falsely accusing someone, or the reprisal that could occur. But I am happy to share it with you if you wish to contact me. And I got his email address back here, y'all. Y'all know I didn't hit him up already. Y'all already know. Okay. My suspicion is that the world monarch is an Anunnaki. I told you it was non-human. I told you that. And you already know who it is. It's Marduk and his crew. Golly, I'm just going to tell you. Ball. With pure blood, rather than those of the descendants. So it's not a demigod. It's not a demigod. It's an actual extraterrestrial being. Otherworldly. I don't even like using extraterrestrial. I'll just say otherworldly being. All right. And it says, not the descendants. that we all now almost certainly will be diluted. The bloodline will be diluted. This may be so that they can be seen in public and therefore actively involved in business and in commerce. Okay. The elongated Anunnaki skull would create too much intrigue and suspicion today. So if the world monarch is pure, they would need to remain outside the public arena. The Crown Council of 13 are what we refer to as the 13 bloodline families. We know that there's more, but we're going to say for the reading of this book and the video, it's 13, all right? Descending from the Anunnaki, they became the Sumerian kings, then the pharaohs, and still control everything, but in a very discreet and cleverly structured way. They have amassed incredible power. Okay, they have amassed incredible power, influence, and wealth, which includes land, property, business investments, as well as governments. This then filters down into the think tanks like the United Nations, NATO, WEF, WHO, but also includes groups that you may not have heard of, such as the Council of the Foreign Relations. I've heard of them. The Club of Rome, the Trilateral Commission, we've heard of them, and the Bilderberg Group, we've heard of them. We know who they are. Underneath these think tanks comes the financial element of the control, consisting of the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, okay, World Banks, the Bank of International Settlements. These organizations control interest rates and tax revenue across the planet. And planet basically does not mean a spinning ball through space. It just means plane of existence. This is plane, this level field, this field that we're on. It's really not level, but you understand what I'm saying with the video. It's a plane of existence. And it says, the Committee of 300 consists of the world's most powerful subfamilies and is one of the most insidious organizations in existence today. From the outset, their aim has been destiny. Okay, our outset has been to destroy America, and instructing. Who is this person now? I've never heard of this person. Aurelio Panici, an Italian industrialist and philanthropist, along with Alexander King, to form the Club of Rome back in 1968. I did not hear of his name when I saw that, when I looked that up. I might have, but I don't remember. I got to go research that. Okay, then it says, they have done intolerable and immeasurable harm to this once great nation. Okay, upon its conception, Pacici immediately produced a paper that stated that there were too many people on Earth and that America, with its industrial and agricultural redevelopment, is responsible for overpopulation. What is that guy? There's there's two of them. I've shared his videos from Redacted. One of them is the CEO of Palantir. I don't know. Maybe you guys can Google it really quick. That's one person. And then the other person, I cannot think of his name. He wears glasses and he looks like a damn lizard. He actually looks like a reptilian. I know he's reptilian, but I can't think of his name. All right. So that's what they're saying. So Panici came out with this paper and he says that America is responsible for the overpopulation. For the record, this world is much larger than we know, than what the maps say, and we're not overpopulated. They just want to control the masses and they want less people. That's just it. And they fear losing control. Okay. We're not overpopulated. I'm just telling you. And it says, this document was supported by the work of Lord Bertrand Russell, a senior member of the Committee of 300. Russell had previously written a work called The Impact of Science on Society, which is now almost impossible to find. Okay. Within it, he stated that the world was grossly overpopulated and that we have to get rid of at least half of the world's population, and it doesn't matter how it's achieved. All right. Did y'all get that? Would you say so many people are coming into my life? People who are energetically in alignment. Yes, there are. You're absolutely right. I'm telling you, when you start to awaken, the path is cleared for you. You will be, people will come into your life for a purpose and for a reason, and they'll be there to help you. Okay. And it's because you've known them previously in your previous walk. And also there are new people that are coming into this realm that have never been here before, but are here to assist, if that makes sense. So then it says, he says, then they produced another paper entitled Zero Growth Post-Industrial Plan for Industry and Agriculture for the United States of America. Just 3 days later, this was adopted as the official United States Charter by President Jimmy Carter and was a plan to destroy the middle classes, because history has shown that the working classes were far easier to crush should there be a revolt or any form of resistance to their plans. Their method to do this would be to make their businesses unviable to operate. Next comes the think tanks, and they include the Bilderberg Group, who were founded in 1954 with strong links to the British government, the CIA, and the Freemasons. They also influenced publishing, university education, and the companies within the pyramid, such as Microsoft and Google, but also, rather worthily, Facebook. Shout out to all these treacherous mother freakers. We know who they are. They are protected by the media and their annual meetings in the Netherlands, and they're never publicized. The attendees consist of the British prime ministers, American presidents, and people they choose to reside in these positions next term, like Bill Clinton, Tony Blair, Keir Starmer, Keir Starmer, were all invited to attend shortly before they became leaders. Okay. So like I told you, we don't elect people. They're pre-selected, and they give us this option or illusion that we can choose when really there is no choice. The choices don't do anything. The choice is to back away from the shit. Okay. I'm just going to tell you. So you heard me read it. So then he says, all right, shortly before they become leaders, they're invited. Also, on the guest list are Angela Merkel and the 13 bloodline families. The Bilderberg Group could easily be confused with the Illuminati, and for good reason, but is more of a political and government wing of the parasites that also just happens to control NATO and the United Nations. It is estimated that over 100 of the most powerful people in the world attend the summit each year at the Hotel de Bilderberg. Another is the Council on Foreign Relations, founded and controlled by the Rothschilds, evil bastards, and the rest of the bloodline families. Their role is the control of America, with their method being mainly via the media and Hollywood. I'm just going to tell you, everybody believes what's on TV. This is not just the press, but also television, movies, Hollywood, and particular actors, including Angelina Jolie, George Clooney, are prominent members. Ultimately, their vision is NWO, a new world order, which we're already in a new world order, because if you flip it over on the back of the dollar bill, it's going to tell you that. And it says, the WEF is the front man, with the council choosing to exist purely within the shadows. This organization is also linked to the Illuminati, not to be confused, but they're linked to it, and is currently instigating World War III and the end of democracy. And there is no such thing as democracy. I don't want to argue with people. This is a republic. We are the remnants of the Republic of Tartary. Hey, Chief Red Wolf, we are the remnants of the Republic of Tartary. It's never been about a democracy. So that's where they twist everything up. And you really gotta understand what's transpired in history and who the key players are. Okay? Because it's a set group of people within these organizations. I ain't going to name no names. I'm just going to say it. And it says, also within the level is the Trilateral Commission, located in New York, and it operates in a very similar way to the Council of the Foreign Relations. Okay. Founded in 1973, it has attracted some very well-known celebrities too. They are also closely linked to the Illuminati. All right. So then it says, sat directly underneath within the pyramid of the parasitic hierarchy are the world's largest corporations, such as BP, Microsoft, Pfizer, DuPont. These provide a direct input into how public consume and what they purchase, as well as the medical and pharmaceutical industries. I'm telling you, these guys are gangsters. They had a brilliant plan. They didn't do this by themselves. At the top of the very hierarchy is non-human entity. They had help. They had to have help to organize and to work as long and as hard as they have done to F this planet up, this plane of existence up. They've had help. And this is really, it's just astronomical when you think about how many people have died in the name of medical apartheid and experiments, and how many people are continually being poisoned right now. It's just unbelievable. So it says this enables them to sell products that cause us harm, like toxins within the food that we eat or radiation from the products they supply, the cookware, the forever chemicals in the water. Everybody's got forever chemicals in their bodies now. I'm telling you, this is a toxic environment. It's just you got to get your body back to a baseline place to where you can start to sustain, or maintain your life and elevate spiritually so you can get the hell out this rock. I'm just going to tell you. So then it says, then in the very cunning move, you could term as running with the gamekeeper and poacher. They provide us with either a course of medical treatment or care. Okay. So below the corporations sits religion and governments, both of which are very strongly connected and have always been used, even they don't want to say the separation of church and state. No. If you know, you know, right? If you know, you know. So then it says, both of which are very strongly connected and have always been used as a method of control for the masses. And people will die defending what and I hate to use this word, but I'm going to say it, they're going to die defending their belief. A belief is a lack of knowledge and knowing. Either you know it or you don't. Just going to tell you. So then it says, religion providing us with the rules to follow. All right. And if we wish to go to heaven rather than to hell, then government with its military and peace forces and prison. Then they government. Okay, so yeah. So it says, if we wish to go to heaven rather than hell, then government with its military and peace forces and prisons, should we fail to comply or even refuse to pay a particular tax imposed upon us. Okay. Education and media also fall within the government's remit, both designed to program us to think in a particular way. In 1914, John D. Rockefeller created the General Education Board at a personal cost of $129 million for a very specific reason. No, he wasn't benevolent in any way, okay? Shape or form, he says. He was in fact quite the opposite, as the speech will help confirm. Built on the factory mode, mass production, okay, it says built on the factory mode, mass education taught basic reading, writing, and arithmetic, all right, a bit of history and other subjects, and the overt curriculum. Beneath it was a covert curriculum that was far more basic. It consisted of these three courses: evidence, punctuality, and obedience. Evidence, punctuality, and obedience, and repetitive work. The basic training requirements to produce reliable, productive factory workers and the factory labor demanded who would take orders from a management hierarchy, all right, because you got to be good little worker bees, right, without questioning. And it demanded men and women both prepared to share slave away at machines or in offices, performing brutally repetitive jobs, not being exposed to the sunlight, and working 8 to 12 hours a day, and sometimes longer than that. I'm just going to tell you. Henry Ford and Andrew Carnegie and other powerful and successful businessmen also became involved in the education system. All right. This is yet another example of someone that used their wealth to influence the decision of the governments, having not been born into the right family, in a similar way to Bill Gates in recent years. So if something were to happen to Mr. Gates and he was unalive, there are 10 more Bill Gates that are going to pop up like moles in a hole that will take his place. I'm just telling you, they're using him as a figurehead. They always do that. They always do that. They have the same MO. So then it says, the media uses television, radio, and publishing to influence how we think, how we vote, and how we hate, and how we admire, or who we admire. Since the dawn of television, known by many as the one-eyed monster, All right. We have watched programs, and when it comes to the indoctrination and programming, how we think, the clue is very much in the title, programming. Finally, at the bottom of the pyramid are you and I, the breeders and the feeders. That's what we're called. Useless eaters. You will own nothing and be happy. Just telling you. They usually refer to us as in a very derogatory way, but in this instance, we are either debt slaves or workers. Their plan for us started at birth, whereby we were registered, then traded as a commodity. This is known as the straw man and worthy of further investigation. Okay. Then it moves into our education, which is very specific, and you are punished if you don't fall in line. Next, it's off to work, and you will most often have a structure of hierarchy there at work, as well as the privilege of handling over a big chunk of your hard-earned wages through income tax contributions and sales tax and other tax out the wazoo. You're taxed on stuff that you already, I don't even want to get into it. Let me just keep reading. If you are lucky enough to reach retirement age, then they'll control that by dictating when this can happen. And I think they moved the age from 67 to 69 now. They changed it. So then it says, or by taking another chunk of cash from you when you retire early, using a private pension. After all that, and when you run out of steam, comes death. And even that is controlled. I am grateful and appreciate your candor. Thank you, big brother. Same here. I've learned a lot from you. I tell everybody, hey, subscribe to your page and do the research because it's right there. And you're just putting the puzzle pieces together and putting the information out there for people to see it. Either they don't or they do. I mean, that's just it. Either they see it or they don't. And like Val said and Andre said in the chat here, there's many people that are asleep. Like they haven't woken up fully. Like it's not clicking with them. Like some people know something's wrong, but they just can't put their fingers on what's going on. And this is eloquently broke down to where you can go into different topics. You can start researching and looking this information up for yourself. So then it says, once they take a chunk out of your retirement and you are lucky to retire, then comes death. And even that's controlled. Where you can be buried or have your ashes scattered will be decided for you. And you will even get another certificate in your death. All right. I'm just saying. And now you're not even buried anymore. Most people are cremated, right? But then you got to question, are you really being cremated by yourself? Are you being cremated with other people? I saw a documentary on that. It was highly disturbing. Not only that, a lot of states, and I believe let me think about this. I think it's 28 states the last time I checked. I think it's 28 states now that instead of doing the crematoriums, they can do a liquid cremation. A liquid cremation where they melt the body down and you liquefy it. Liquefaction, that's what it's called. Liquefy the body and then they just pour it down the drain, down the sewer, and it goes through the reprocessing centers. And we're actually ended up drinking Uncle Fester and drinking it, making ice and stuff like that. I mean, it's legal. It really is. If you guys want me to do a presentation, I can do it. I can pull it up, show you the laws, and even show you videos of the places that actually do it. I find it fascinating. I'll be looking at all kind of shit. I'm telling you, but it's a real thing. So you got a choice of liquefaction, cremation, or the standard burial. All right. I'm just going to tell you. So it says, in the event that you've left property or money to your loved ones, the final nail in the coffin surely has had to be the inheritance tax and probate. So see, and we're not even going to talk about when you exit the body, what happens to you on the other side. All right. Because, they had to hijack that too. I'm just going to tell you. So a lot of us have been reincarnating in this realm for a specific purpose. I'm going to leave it at that because that's probably too much tea. But I'm going to tell you. So you think you're getting off of this rock when you exit the body and then you mistakenly go towards the light thinking that's, saving you, and you end up back here in another damn body in another part of the world. Just gonna tell you. Hey, Jamil. So then it says, from our first to our last breath, everything we do is controlled. And it is. Ultimately, by just one person or being, or there are 13 bloodline families, yet very few of us believe there is anything we can do about it. Sat on every step of the pyramid, the Jesuits and the Freemasons operate. All right. Sometimes allowing us to join in, particularly the Freemasons, but never actually allowing us to elevate to a level that could make any real difference, nor have access to the information and the secrets that they possess. All right. And then it says, having been a master Freemason, because he wrote the book, he wrote this book, having been a master Freemason within the Grand Lodge of the United Kingdom in London for over 20 years, I am living proof of this. You will probably be pleased to learn that once I realized I would not get high enough to learn anything other than just the basics, I decided to no longer attend. During my Masonic career, I have witnessed corruption on various levels. As I stated in chapter 2, the parasites have controlled almost everything that happens since the time of the pharaohs and Amun-Ra. The same 13 families with the Rothschilds at the helm, okay, have rewritten our history, supported both sides of the war, given us different religions in order to divide us and prevent us from living freely in a much higher vibration. God, he summed it up for us. Just right there. He summed it up. Today, far more people are aware of this and are termed as awake, okay? Having, having gained knowledge of what our true purpose and our connection to the Creator really is. However, the parasites have put fluoride in our water to calcify our pineal glands and have polluted the crops with chemtrails in a bid to make our vibration low and in order to make us feel unwell. Therefore, our cognitive function, as well as our ability to meditate and to live in harmony with nature, is being destroyed. Added to this, there have been medical interventions that have caused illnesses and death. The ouchie Faucis. I'm just going to say it. The ouchie Faucis is number one there. I'm just going to tell you. Since the pandemic of 2020 and its hike in the cost of living, we have seen an unprecedented increase in people not only taking antidepressants, but sadly taking their own lives too. Lockdown clearly separated us from loved ones. Yep. Hey, lockdown clearly separated us from loved ones. All right. And we know if you didn't get COVID at that time when the lockdown was happening, then you knew someone who did. And you also knew someone who lost their job, who got divorced, who unalived themselves. I mean, everybody was affected in some way, shape, form, or fashion, whether you believe it or not, or whether people really understand that. And now coming out of that, you can tell social media is different and the way people talk to each other is different. There's no tolerance there. People are filled with rage and hate. They're so quick to persecute and to jump on a bandwagon, and they're so quick to villainize you. I'm telling you, when we got locked down for the period of time that we were, people lost their freaking minds. I mean, they couldn't, a lot of people couldn't handle it. I was at home, sitting at home, crocheting and eating chocolate cookies. I was going to tell you I gained weight, but I was at home. We were okay. I mean, my husband still had to work and my son still had to work, but you know, I started buying stuff in 2019 because I already seen what was happening. Like at Christmas time, I was giving out backpacks and I was giving out colloidal silver and doing presentations and telling people to move money around, and people thought I was crazy. And I had a whole room of toilet paper. I bought it in 2019. Hell, I was giving it to the kids. I'm just telling you, I was stocked. But I knew this shit was going to happen. But I fared well in it. Now, the next thing that happens, I don't know. I don't plan on being around. I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to tell you. I'm trying to ascend and get off this rock. I'm just telling you. But if you look at what I'm saying, a lot of people now are on antidepressants. A lot of people now you see a lot more mass shootings. Well, we saw that anyway. But now you see a lot of people that don't have tolerance. They're just hateful. And there's a lot of division. And the media is pushing it. And social media, Not even TV, but social media is pushing it. So it clearly separated us from our loved ones and introduced a remote working into the mainstream. We were encouraged to spy and report on our neighbors and family members if we saw them breaking the rules, and were almost placed under house arrest for several months. Then, shortly afterwards, we discovered that many of the people making these rules didn't follow them themselves. Okay? People still wearing masks to this day. When I go to the store, I still see people wearing it. Now, I will wear a mask if I'm sneezing and I'm coughing and I'm sick. But if I'm sneezing, coughing, and sick, I'm going to the doctor's office, all right, to get something, right? If I can't cure it myself, and if I go for a long period of time, then I will do that. But other than that, I don't wear a mask. What for? Breathe the chemicals in. I'm just going to tell you, go out in the sunlight, which is saying somebody said something I can't see. Go out in the sunlight. I'm just telling you, the sun is what's going to heal you, because we're energy bodies. We're electric beings. So back at the turn of the century, we slept on linen sheets and they put people on the rooftops of hospitals to get well. I'm just telling you. And they use colloidal silver. So I don't know. I have a different perception than most. I'm just going to say it. I see it. He's right. So these people instituted all these laws and regulations, and when they were on TV taking the injections, do you really think they were taking a happy sauce injection, or were they taking a B12 shot? I'm just going to ask you. Just going to ask you. Do you really think they did that? It is difficult to pinpoint when the reset we're going through actually started. Well, Jamil lines it out in his book. I'm still pushing your book, Jamil. It's an excellent work. I'm telling you, you laid out the wars. And I'm telling you, since the reconstruction of this country, it's been happening. The Fall of Tartary. I'm just telling you, it has been. So it says, it is difficult to pinpoint when the reset we're going through actually started. Was the outbreak of COVID, as some theorists suggest, the invasion of Iraq following 9/11, or a result of the British public voting to leave the EU? The latter, I doubt, as leaving was driven by some players within the cabal itself. Besides, we will never truly know if the votes were actually counted or if the decision to leave was already made. Therefore, the British public being asked to vote was probably just to make them think they mattered. At the same time, I personally doubt that when the elections are held, that these votes are counted legitimately either. Instead, the outcome is part of the plan that the parasites wish to play out. You only have to look at the power structure that's given to us by the WHO during the pandemic to see that either most of, not all the governments are controlled by other people and organizations. Okay. And this is the last part I'm going to read, because I got to jump off here and beeline down the Grand Parkway to get to my appointment. It's the last paragraph. The WHO receives its funding from members states. However, Bill and Melinda Gates have donated $750 million through their foundation, which gives them incredible control and influence. Whether the Gates family belong in some way to the 13 bloodline families remains uncertain, but they do appear to have a seat at the table. I recall Bill Gates on television during the pandemic acting as almost as an official advisor on behalf of the scientific world. We're asked to follow the science, but before this, we were always asked to question it. And that's where I'm going to leave it. When I come back, I only have a few more pages to finish up. And then, like I said, we are going to get into yoga, Science of Sacred Secretion, the Beginner's Guide to the Akashic Records, how to reach, I guess, Nirvana, to become Christed. And we're also going to lay in with that, still reading over the reptilians, but I also want to bring in his next book called The Rise of the Clones. Because once the Cabbage Patch Kids were little and they were raised or picked or plucked from the cabbages, then you've got the clones, the others that I want to talk to you about. The ones that they go into these military hospitals to get adjusted. And I got some interesting facts I want to share with you guys on that. I even want to pull up the machine that they use, but they do it. Okay. We're talking about people that look like you and I, but don't have the same inner monologue. Okay. They don't have the same essence that we do. All right. And I'll break it down and I'll show you what I mean. And then you guys can make a decision from there. Y'all can go research it too. All right. So anyway, thanks for joining me. I can't tell who's joined. Jamil, Valerie, Lloyd, Andre, Chief Red Wolf, and whoever else joined. I appreciate you guys' support. I'll be back to finish off this chapter, and then we're going to get into the rise of the clones. And like I said, we're going to do yoga, breath work, meditation. We're going to talk about the science of sacred secretion, and I might have a couple of people on as guests, guest speakers or guest presenters that are going to talk about some interesting things when it comes to yoga and breath work and meditation and acupuncture and massage. All right. So would you say have a great day? Be safe out there on the roads. I sure am. I'm going to jump in the whip and get out of here. I will talk to you guys later. Remember what I always say, be the change you want to see all around this earth dome, because it's up to you and I to make a positive change. I love you guys. We are eternally bounded, and I'll see you soon.